Hello everyone, it's Dr. Sam. I'd like to welcome you to my EyeClarity podcast. This is a show that offers cutting-edge information on how to improve your vision and overall wellness through holistic methods. I so appreciate you spending part of your day with me. If you have questions, you can send them to hello@drsamberne.com. Now, to the latest EyeClarity episode. Hey everybody, I wanted to introduce this podcast. It was a State of the Union that I gave on how I see holistic eye care in 2023. I touch on a number of different subjects and I wanted to share it with you. So I hope you enjoy the show. Take care. What I wanted to do is I wanted to start off and give kind of a State of the Union of how I see holistic eye care in 2023. And I'm going to weave in everybody's sharing so that it's more appropriate for you individually than just kind of spewing off, because I could go in a lot of directions. So in 2023, one of the trends that I see in overall holistic health is that people are wanting to take more responsibility for their health and wellness, not just their eyes, but I think this was accelerated through the COVID period. But even before that, I think people were exploring, things like herbs and aromatherapy and just finding professionals who would listen to them and not just see them as a number. And, one of my sayings is whenever I evaluate a person, I don't just look at the numbers, but I look at the person behind the numbers. And I remember when I studied Chinese medicine and acupuncture, one of the things that really blew me away as I learned how to read pulses was that a lot of times on the surface, people would have certain symptoms, but if I treated the cause, then the symptoms would go away. And I think all of the people in this class today are seeking that, or if they're, if they haven't experienced it, they've experienced it with me or by finding me online. So one of the things that I see changing is that people are going to be more, say, self-directed and empowered to work more in partnership with their doctor. And, over the past 6 months, patients have said to me they're really happy that I create an environment where I'm not just the authority and that I'm the only one with the answers, but that we work together, even if it has to do with certain prescriptions that they're looking through, because by doing that, it creates a more healing environment instead of, say, in some of the ophthalmology experiences that people have had where the doctor says, well, if you don't have this procedure, you're going to go blind. Or in children, if you don't get this really strong glasses prescription and wear it full time, your child is going to lose his or her eyesight. So that's one trend that I see going on. Another trend that I see going on is that people are starting to talk about mitochondria. This seems to be a buzz in not only in eye care, although I don't know how many eye doctors are actually thinking about mitochondria. There's a few, but certainly in the functional medicine, functional nutrition world, mitochondria is a conversation. One of the reasons in eye care it's such an important conversation is because the retina has one of the highest numbers of mitochondria in the retina, specifically the cones. We have our rods and cones. The cones are the area called the macula, And I'm getting more and more people. We have somebody here today with the right eye and the retinal detachment, that more and more research has come out. This morning I was down at the beach and I shot a couple videos on some research that I found where red light, as an example, has actually reduced the degeneration in both the macula and retina areas. And not only, I've talked about Glenn Jeffries and his work at the University College of London, but there's also been some ophthalmology papers that have come out. One is there was a study done by the Investigative Ophthalmology and Visual Science Journal, and they did a really cool study where they exposed people to blue light, and it's the artificial blue light that we get from our screens, and then they gave them red light therapy. And without a doubt, they saw that the mitochondria function, the retina function, their visual performance increased or improved, or it neutralized the negative effects of what the artificial blue light does to the retina. Not only the retina, I think it also affects every part of the eye and even the brain and the body. So that was really cool to see. And there have been some other studies that I'm going to be reporting on in social media over the next couple of weeks, which talk about the value of red light as a way to reduce inflammation, oxidative stress, macular edema, macular degeneration, and even people with retinal detachments. So I get a lot of emails from people and direct message on social media on, hey, I had this retinal detachment, I've got scar tissue, the doctor says there's nothing you can do about it. And I've been giving them red light therapy. I also recommend a certain digestive enzyme, a protease enzyme. One's called serrapeptase, which actually helps reduce scar tissue in the eye. And then adding the MSM eye drops, which I'll talk about, MSM and the castor oil eye drops. And by doing all of those things, you're hydrating, you're lubricating, you're creating more collagen. And then with the red light, you're actually changing the mitochondria. And so the mechanism in the eye around mitochondria is that as we age, I would say after age 40, our mitochondria function definitely starts going down. And as a person's mitochondria goes down, their ATP goes down. That's the energy that's needed to get rid of, toxins and oxidative stress and so on. And so as the ATP goes down, there's another substance that goes up called reactive oxygen species, ROS. So as that ROS goes up and the ATP goes down, what happens is it just creates oxidative stress, poor circulation, scarring, and this is, then leading us down the path where eventually the eye doctor is going to start picking up different eye conditions and pathologies. And of course, the toolbox of regular eye doctors is pretty limited because it's pharmaceutical drugs and or surgery, which are pretty invasive. And not to say that sometimes you do need those, but if you can be more proactive, or you can start doing these things to feed the eyes, then you're going to prevent or eliminate the inevitable, so they say. So the mitochondria conversation is really coming into play in 2023. And there's another ingredient I want to bring in, which is something called nitric oxide. So this is my third trendsetter. Nitric oxide is an ingredient that's a vasodilator. And there have been some papers, especially in the glaucoma world, that nitric oxide can actually slow down the progression of glaucoma or other vascular diseases, even things like optic neuritis, papilledema, these optic nerve issues that are pretty unexplainable in regular eye care. It's just, you've got this situation, there's not much we can do. Well, nitric oxide is one of those ingredients that I actually put into my optic nerve formula as a glaucoma protocol, and that coupled with alpha lipoic acid, ginkgo biloba, bilberry, taurine, and of course the good fats. Those are things that kind of build the optic nerve, and it protects it even if you have some challenges in vascular disease. And it just so happens the red light also contributes to the production of nitric oxide as well. So this idea of being able to increase the circulation in the eyes is really important. Okay, another trend that I see going on, and maybe it's because I'm getting enough following now, enough traction, that people are questioning their contact lens and glasses prescription, especially if it's a really strong prescription and they don't want to wear it. And, you know, I can't tell you, in the last couple of weeks, I received very disturbing emails from parents where their children are wearing prescriptions like +10, +12. Now this is extreme, and of course they're dilating, you know, and doing a psychoplegic exam, but that's crazy to give a child +10 or +12. I mean, it just doesn't fit in what we're doing. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we have adults who are dealing with the monovision situation, where one eye is corrected for distance and one eye is corrected for near, whether it's in LASIK surgery, cataract surgery, or generally speaking, even in a contact lens. This is very disruptive for your depth perception, your balance, your orientation. And so I've been really having to put out a lot of fires because people are not happy with what they're being given. And the eye doctors are not necessarily open to the negotiation of saying, can you give me, you know, a reduced prescription? And, you know, one of the funny things I say to people is, you have one pair of shoes, you probably have more than one pair of shoes based on your condition. You're also going to need more than one set of lenses, contacts or glasses, based on the circumstance or the experience that you're doing. So people are really getting tuned into that, and they're really excited that they can actually start reducing their prescription and moving more into a direction of at least wearing something part-time that's not quite as strong for them. And so that's another trend. And then I would say, last but not least, I think people are getting more and more conscious about the relationship between diet and their eyes. And I'm going to take it a couple steps deeper, because in studying functional medicine, one of the most powerful practices that helps everything but really helps your eyes is the intermittent fasting program. And I suggest that if you don't know about intermittent fasting, it's something that you want to start studying. Because in a lot of research out there, even this is people like with cancer and chronic disease, chronic inflammation, pain, the intermittent fasting, somewhere between 12 and 18 hours, doing that a few days a week, resets the body, and it actually reverses the aging process in the cells. And this is very potent. And in terms of the eyes, there's actually, I'm going to start posting a couple of studies that I have found on the relationship of intermittent fasting and improving your vision. And so if you're dealing with cataracts, for example, and this is another trend that I see in the biochemistry lab work, and we're going to actually go into a lab report today. One of our participants had some lab work done, and I'm going to go into it in great detail. But the point of it is the glucose molecules. They attach themselves to the vitreous, which is causing floaters and eventually PVD, or the glucose molecule is attaching itself to the lens, which is creating certain types of cataracts. We call this the glycation process. And because we're eating so many carbohydrates these days, this glucose insulin level in our body is wreaking havoc, and so when we eat carbs, our body is going for the energy through the glucose molecules, but when we go into intermittent fasting, it starts to go to the fat molecules. And so it's a whole different dynamic in terms of our oxidative stress, our inflammatory situation, and certainly you want to check in with your doctor before you do it if you've got, say, diabetes or hypertension or you're on medications. Definitely check in with your doctor. But one of the things I've noticed about intermittent fasting is it creates more resiliency in your health, in your neurological health, in your cognitive health, in your immune health, in your digestive health, so that it's another tool that I feel will even grow as we move into 2023, especially if I keep talking about it. And there are a lot of great functional medicine doctors who I've studied with who talk about both the intermittent fasting and also the ketogenic diet. And the keto diet, if you've got a condition like diabetic retinopathy or some very intense retinopathy situation, I would certainly consider the possibility of moving more into a keto diet, but certainly work with a functional medicine doctor where you can get a baseline of certain blood markers. One of the ones I look at is homocysteine. So homocysteine is one of those markers. When I see it high, a lot of times it's going to show me down the road that there's going to be an eye problem. So that's a marker that's creating an inflammatory situation that we're picking up. And there have been some papers written on the relationship between high elevated levels of homocysteine and eye problems, just as one example. Now, today, we're going to actually do what we call a hair mineral analysis. And everybody on this call, if you do want to do a hair mineral analysis, contact Monica, appointments at drsamberne.com, and we can certainly arrange a hair mineral analysis. I want to give you an example of, and Dr. Bailey will relate to this very well. We had a mom who, and her daughter, they live in Austin, Texas, and they did 1 year of vision therapy. And there was absolutely no change in the binocular vision. And that's kind of weird. I don't know, exactly what's going on. But one of my mentors taught me this when I was studying with him, and his name was Dr. Albert A. Sutton. I don't know if you heard of Dr. Sutton. And Dr. Sutton was a really great developmental optometrist. He practiced in Miami Beach, Florida. And one of the things that Dr. Sutton taught me was the value of, if you've got a difficult developmental case, that doing a biochemistry test to find out what's going on a cellular level and giving more nutrients, and you did that first, then when you did the vision therapy, the child would be more available to make the changes they needed to make, because if they have a developmental delay or they've got something going on, it takes a lot of energy to change. And if we're in a depleted state, if our adrenals are out of balance, if we're in a calcium shell where we push all our calcium away as a way to protect ourselves because we're overwhelmed, if we've got heavy metal toxicities, if we've been exposed to mold, if we're not metabolizing our protein, we're going to get into this today, then the vision therapy is not going to work as well. And so one of the first things I did with this family is we did a hair mineral analysis on this 12-year-old, and the imbalances were off the chart. They were off the charts in terms of, the struggles she was having. And so as we repaired that, and then we did some very specific primitive reflexes, vestibular therapy, yolk prisms, and some other things, now there's improvement happening, and it's happening pretty quickly because she's got the energy now to do it. And this is one of the key things that Dr. Sutton taught me around don't ignore the nutrition. Don't ignore that. Ask about it, see what's going on, and if you can get a biochemistry test, do so. One of the places I work in Albuquerque is called Kid Power, and Kid Power is an institution that works with autistic kids. It's a really cool facility because it's like this big warehouse. It's kind of like this office, but it's about 4 times as big, and they have these huge ceilings. And it's a group of OTs who are very progressive. I mean, they've studied primitive reflexes, they've studied so many different things. And so they brought me in the vision therapy part because my job is to help connect the eyes to the brain and the body, because these kids, their visual system is just not connected. And the level of eye care in ophthalmology there is all about giving strong glasses and forgetting about writing these kids off. But what I've instituted in there is biochemistry testing, and you can do it a lot of different ways. You can do urine tests, you can do hair analysis, you can do blood work, you can do muscle testing. I've taught them now they're doing muscle testing, and we have a whole list of things that they test for. And I'll tell you, it's made a huge difference in the overall community of the kids and the parents. And these are kids that are in wheelchairs, Down syndrome, minimal brain dysfunction, severe autism. I mean, it's a wild time when I go there. I'm basically on the floor the whole time doing my exam, and it has nothing to do with reading the eye chart, but it's more about I give them prisms and walk on a 2x4 and ask them to I watch their posture, and we diagnose based on what we see, based on their posture and their movement and those kinds of things. So vision is a whole body experience. It's not just in the eyeball, and you know that's why you're with me. All right, the last thing I'm going to say, and then we're gonna move more into kind of specifics where I'm going to work with people here, and that is that if you are in a vision improvement process, and we have 2 people in Zoom who are in that, blurred vision is a big issue for them, and they can't really find a prescription that corrects them completely to 20/20. And I've recommended some prescriptions for them that are reduced, and they're still not happy. It's still blurry. So this is something, I say this on social media a lot, and that is that it's very difficult to wear a reduced prescription without doing the vision therapy first. You have to make the changes so your visual system can adapt to the new prescription. If you try to wear a reduced prescription without doing the work, it's cheating. It's trying to do a shortcut, and it doesn't work. And I know this in my own case. Many of you, I don't know whether you know this, but when I was a child, I was diagnosed with a learning disability, and my mom, bless her heart, she took me to all kinds of professionals, and we ended up at an ophthalmologist's office. And the ophthalmologist said, well, kid, you got myopia. Let's put you in some lenses. And so I got these lenses. And I remember years later, it's like, wow, I got this strong lens. And I see things clearly, but I'm feeling weird about this. So what ended up happening is I became a memorizer. That's how I got through school. And I got A's. I did well in school. I was in a family that really emphasized education. And so I had to get good grades. I worked really hard. So, but every couple of years, my myopia got worse and worse. And so when I started optometry school, my prescription was a -275 in each eye with 3/4 of a diopter of astigmatism at 90 degrees. And I was in contacts, I was in glasses, and I was even going up a little higher because in optometry school, of course, you're doing a lot of studying and reading and so on. Well, when I got out of optometry school, and I worked at the Gesell Institute, and then I opened up a practice with another doctor in Philadelphia, I met a developmental optometrist in Connecticut. His name was Dr. Al Shankman. I have two Al's in my life. Albert A. Shankman was an optometrist who wrote a book called Vision Enhancement Training at the Optometric Extension Program, and also Psychobehavioral Vision Enhancement. And he did a course for a year where you would go up to his place, his house in Stratford, Connecticut, and I became a patient of his in vision therapy. And so as I did my vision therapy every day, and within 6 months, my prescription went from minus 275 to about minus 1. I couldn't believe it. In fact, I remember he gave me a reduced prescription. I was working in my office, and after about a week, my staff said to me, are you on medication? What? You seem more relaxed. What's going on with you? And it was the prescription. I had reduced my prescription, so the lenses that I was looking through were not as intense. So I wasn't as intense. I was less reactive. I was more in flow. So I kept working with him, and I eventually completely dissolved my myopia. I think today I'm probably, the last time I measured myself, I was probably about a minus 50. But I still see 20/20, and what's great about being a little nearsighted as you get gray hair is that you can still read without needing reading glasses. So it's kind of perfect for me. If you're going to be nearsighted, be a little bit of nearsight. And so if you get cataract surgery or LASIK surgery, tell the doctor, keep me a little nearsighted so that I can still read when I get old. And so the whole thing of it is that I think that, hold on a minute, let me just, lost my, the whole thing of it is that, when you get a prescription like I did and you wear it, it reinforces the imbalance that you have. And so the goal for me was, as I did my vision therapy, things were blurry for a while, and I was okay with that. So those of you that I'm working with that maybe aren't seeing quite as clearly as you want to be, do the vision therapy, and then your visual system and you will finally adjust and adapt to the reduction. And that's kind of how it is. You've got to be patient. And here's the deal. If you need to see clearly, then put on the strong lenses. I am not into blur when you're driving on the freeway. No way. That's not part of the deal. What I want is, in a non-demanding and a non-threatening situation, I would say wear something less. And those of you that have worked with me, we do opposite lens prescriptions, and we're going to do that today. So that by giving somebody an opposite lens, there's a term in physical therapy called hormesis. And what it is that you challenge the body in a way that makes the body stronger. And so in vision, if you're nearsighted and we give you a farsighted prescription, like we've done here with my patient, which we'll get to in a little bit, when you take it off, your visual acuity is going to be better. It's like you have stepped into a broader sense of mental, psychological, visual possibilities. Or if you're farsighted, so we've got 2 people on the call that are farsighted on the Zoom, that those people wearing minus lens to blur and pinhole glasses, that's very positive to get an experience. First of all, with the minus lens, that's going to give you a blur in the other direction. And then the pinhole glasses are great for reading, so you're not falling into the trap of what a farsighted lens is going to do to you, because a farsighted lens really creates less responsiveness in your eye muscle flexibility. And so the more magnification you wear, the weaker your eyes are going to become. So those are some ways that you can interrupt what these lenses are doing to you. So I would say be patient. I like to balance the prescription so that both eyes are beginning to work together. We can also reduce the astigmatism some. But it's a process, and you wear the vision improvement prescription in the time that that's safe for you, when there isn't a demand. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something from the EyeClarity podcast show today. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to subscribe on iTunes or Spotify and leave a review. See you here next time.